Hello everyone and welcome back into another video, and this week we had, well, I'm gonna say pretty chaotic week. So it's Fuji International Speedway, this is daily race A, and I gotta show you something. So 6 laps, it's Fuji, it's usually pretty chaotic at Fuji, but not to even mention this one. So I actually set a pretty good lap here. So it's global leaderboards, and you can see I'm P7 in the world at this point. But all you see, like pretty much all of these cars are Bugattis. So it's only one car that is dominating. I also checked the website for exact percentages, and as you can see, 43% of the players are using the Bugatti Vision in their qualifying times. But this is not all, because if you just scroll down the leaderboards, it's really difficult to find a different car, but when you do find one, it's the Toyota, which is in 29th place, and it's 7.5 tenths off the pace, which is, well, quite a lot in Group 1. So then I just decided to jump into a couple of races and actually see what can I do from the back. So my first race was pretty chaotic one. I said to myself that I just wanted to be as careful as possible, but you will actually see that that is not that easy as it seems. So braking very early, just deciding to take this very narrow line, and all of a sudden someone crashes into me. Or I did crash into him, depends on what your view out of that one is. And of course I get a 5-second penalty. Now you can really see the difference in BOP. Mazda, again, pretty slow in the corners, fast on the straight, and so are these guys. Just stopping in the middle of the corner, I hit the brakes and I completely lose the car. Because, I mean, yeah, Vision, this Bugatti needs to be driven on the absolute limit these corners just to extract the most downforce, but these cars cannot go that fast, so it's impossible for them to go that fast in the corner. While if I lift, or if it even if I tap the brakes in that corner, I will most likely lose the car. So what else was I supposed to do? I mean, I can just take it a little bit slower, but then I will most likely lose the back end. So all in all, this Vision car just needs to be driven on the absolute limit. So once again, you can see the big difference in the corners, where it's actually quite easy for me to overtake because they just have much less grip in these corners. And of course they got the hybrids, so hybrids are actually a lot faster on the straight, but not that much in the corners. And you will actually see a big difference in here. So in the middle of the corner I am much faster than this Nissan, but as we're moving down the straight, you can start to see the hybrid kicking in, and it's actually quite a big difference. So in the middle of the corner, if he closes down the doors, it's really going to be difficult for me to overtake. But then again, it's almost impossible to overtake on the straight. So what can I do? Maybe I can outbrake him, maybe I can just wait until he makes a mistake, or I can just be on the accelerator much sooner than he does and hope that the hybrid doesn't kick in. And of course I think he lifted a little bit, but now you can see I'm going almost flat out. I mean, you can just lift a little bit, but now you can really see that big difference. So I'm just, well, I just have much more speed in that corner. Of course I got a penalty in this last lap. I kind of tried to recover my race. Of course it's going to be a 1-second penalty because I cut the track, but I just wanted to avoid him. I didn't really want to go for a move there, and I thought he was not going to be that slow. But now he misses his braking point because he thinks, okay, I can brake like this Vision Bugatti, but it's almost impossible to brake like this car because it's OP on the brakes, it's OP in the corners. So basically in the corners there is no other cars that is faster than the Bugatti, and the downforce of this car is just ridiculous. It really is. So I have my 1-second penalty, but considering that I lost the car, had a 5-second penalty, and I recovered in this race to P7, it's actually a pretty good race, if you ask me. I mean, it could have been better, but it could have also been a lot worse. I could have just, well, just rage quitted out of this one. So I got myself into race 2, and this was much less chaotic one because I was even more careful. I was like really careful. The radar is here. You can see once again when the hybrid kicks in, there is nothing much that you can do, but he's very bad on the brakes. That car is like so heavy and he cannot turn. So once again, I take the most out of that first turn, just kind of squeezing myself in, but I'm on the outside again, and I got a hybrid and, well, actually a couple of other cars, and somehow I squeeze myself out of there with a little bit of a contact. I get myself some damage, but it's all good because I didn't get a 5-second penalty and I didn't crash, which is perfectly good for the start of this race. So again, P11, it seems to be a pretty good race already, and I can say that I am pretty happy with the start, and I didn't crash yet. So braking or out-braking the Nissan, which is not actually that difficult, coming into this twisty section, and now you can really see the difference. So the hybrids or 9 hybrids, I just try to kind of go on the outside, which is not exactly the best thing if you're driving against a Bugatti. And once again, I decided to take kind of a wider line, and I ended on the curb, which is not great with this car, because it's really easy to lose the back end. Now, I got myself into P14, which is not exactly the best place, but I'm gaining, which is good. Diving down the inside, and I think once again this guy just lifts off a little bit, but I decided really to throw it in, and unbelievable amount of downforce that this car has. So 5th gear, just a little lift, and it easily goes to the turn 2. So it's quite unusual to see a car like that. But again, I got myself into P11, overtaking the same guy twice in 2 laps. And yeah, I decided to kind of, you know, get that up there. Like really try to see what I can do out of this race, because it's not a big gap. So only 8 seconds to the lead. So 8 seconds in 6 laps, it's kind of doable. Kind of. So taking a really wide line, but again, it's really difficult to put the power down because you got the car on the outside, and you know he's a hybrid, so he's slower in the corners, like much slower in the corners, but then as we get onto the straight, the hybrid kicks in, and it's really difficult to overtake him. But okay, this Toyota really didn't have that much hybrid power, so I was still able to keep my place. So a Bugatti Vision in front of me, and okay, once again a little contact, and the guy behind me completely loses it. So yeah, okay, what can I even say about this race? I try to go on the outside, and it's really easy if someone makes a mistake. You just don't lift and you just go flat out with this car. It's like, actually it's really easy. 2nd gear, 3rd gear on the way out, and this guy kind of wobbles a little bit, so it's already lap 4 out of lap 6, and this is where I like really try to dive down the inside. I kind of throw the car in. Of course, this is going to be a half a second penalty, but if I just stayed behind him, I maybe would have lost a second, because, you know, even if you lift, you'll lose like 2 to 3 tenths. So it was kind of okay to just throw it in there and see what I can do. So now I'm in P7, and again, it's this first or second turn, so to say, and this guy in front of me breaks in that corner, and it's really difficult to judge if someone is going to brake or not. This is usually a no brake corner, and if you just drop your speed by, let's say, 20, 30 or even 50 kilometers per hour, you can really notice that difference. Of course, you have to be careful. You have to know, okay, I need to brake there, I need to be careful about my braking points, because you never really know what the guy in front is going to do. But still, you're not expecting that the speed is going to drop that significantly. So it had a little hit. I think he just lost the car slightly, but I was 9 seconds from the lead at this point, and I thought, you know what, it's really going to be difficult to recover this race. But you know what, if I can get myself into like P6, maybe even P5, that's already a solid recovery from the spin that I had. So very wide, and 2nd gear on the way out, 3rd, just to have more speed on the straight and just to kind of focus on the end of the straight. He moves down the inside of turn 1, just on the right side, and it's usually not that easy to go on the outside of turn 1. I have a little look at what he's actually going to do, and then braking late, like very late. I kind of outbrake him in this first turn, and easily in 2nd gear on the way out, and of course getting another penalty, because yeah, it's quite easy to pick up a penalty, just go over the track limits. And I found myself in P6, of course, with a penalty, and there is also a hybrid in front of me, and I thought I was gonna serve my penalty here, but I completely forgot that if you pick up a penalty in the last couple of corners, it doesn't show, so I kind of missed my shifting point. And after setting this lap, which is P7 right now in the world, 23.3, I decided to start from the front, just to see if the experience is gonna be a little bit different. So turn 1 was actually pretty chaotic once again, but then the rest of the race was, well, not that exciting. Starting from pole usually is, well, quite tough at Fuji, because you never know what can happen in turn 1. So if someone misses his braking point, it's pretty much game over for you. So I was just watching at the back, and this guy kind of missed his braking point. I tried to avoid him. I think he tried to avoid me, and then we collided, and it was kind of really strange because I kind of moved, he moved, and it was completely unexpected situation. But then I was in P1. I had a bit of damage, but this means that if I can pull away, maybe second and a half, this is pretty much game over. So I'm just gonna keep my lead, and as you see, I started putting in some decent lap times from 26, dropping it to the 25.6, and the gap was already around 6 seconds. So in my last lap, and basically I was putting the fastest lap every single lap that I went through, and the gap got up to 10 seconds. So after 6 laps of racing, the gap was 10 seconds. And this is actually the experience that you get when you're racing from the front, and if you set a really good lap time. 10.5 seconds in the end. And of course, jumping into daily race C, and of course, I gotta show you something in here. Racing medium tires, and of course, I think the reason why we have such a disparity in this one, because it's one mandatory stop and the tire wear is at times free. So looking at the leaderboards, we can actually see a couple of different laps. So the BRZ is actually leading, and there is of course Killian with a 911, but regardless of his lap with the 911, you don't see many of the other cars. And of course, if you want to jump into the race, you won't see anything else than a BRZ, because it's just OP on tires, and you don't really have to change the tires with this car to still be quick and still to be pretty competitive with that car. So I had a couple of races in here, and yeah, this is actually what I found out. Jumping in the first race that I've done, and this was actually on Wednesday. I tried to go with the Porsche 911. It seemed like a pretty fast car, and I was using this car for the whole week, and I thought I was actually pretty good in that car. Of course, there are like a couple of BRZs, and this is also the Lamborghini in front of me. So, well, we had a couple of Lamborghinis on the leaderboards, we had a couple of BRZs, but then I realized that I really didn't see the 911. So that was kind of a misjudgment from my end, but I said to myself, you know what, maybe I can get this car to a limit, and maybe I can get something out of this car. So now you can really start to see the difference. So me and P5 are kind of in the same game. There isn't much that we can do, because those cars in front are just much better on tires, and I will actually show you why in a little while. So I'm just kind of standing here, P6, nothing much to do, and trying to see if I can maybe squeeze myself into P5, which wouldn't be bad, which is actually pretty good if I can get myself. So braking bias -2, because this car was really unstable when it comes to like twisty sections. So I decided to see what can I do with -2, maybe brake a little bit later than he does, and it was actually a pretty good battle. So I'm on the outside of this turn, but now he's going to have a little bit of better acceleration because I cut the curb. Well, I got onto the curb, which kind of delayed my acceleration, and it wasn't that great. So now he's on the inside. Lambo has really good acceleration. I'm on the outside. I tried to take the most out of it. I kind of touch him a little bit, but then he realizes that, okay, he tapped me a little bit more than he should, and he lets go. So this was really fair play, and well done. I mean, this was move well done, but also it was really fair play. But then I decided to see what can I actually do in clean air. So you can see him behind me. This is lap 3, but we are doing 41s, and these guys in front are already 4 seconds in front of us. So 4 seconds in 3 laps. So usually it's around 1.5 to 2 seconds when you start the race, but when the time had to kind of hit the pits, it was 6 seconds, almost up to 7 seconds of a gap, and my fastest lap was a 40.9 in clean air, and I had to change my tires, otherwise I would have been losing maybe a second per lap in the end. And then when I got out of the pits, it was lap 6, and there was Paul in front of me. Of course, he is extremely fast driver, but he didn't change his tires. So this car is on used set of tires, or basically he didn't change them. He pitted in lap 1 and didn't change the tires. I'm on a fresh set of tires, and I can barely keep up with him. Of course, he made this little mistake because the BRZ is kind of difficult to handle in 3rd and 4th gear. I mean, most of the gears are really difficult for that car, but when you get it up to speed, it's a rocket ship. It's really a rocket. So skipping into lap 7, and I finally set my fastest lap, which was a 40.5 on a brand new set of tires in clean air. Polov did a 39.8, probably assisted with slipstream, but still, like, that's 7/10 of a difference, and he's on used tires. So my laps were around 40s, I would say high 40s was my potential, and then kind of 41s, I would say low 41s. This is what I was aiming for. But he was easily, I would say easily getting those 40s done. So without slipstream, without anything, he's just doing it, of course. He is really quick driver. But then I realized that, you know what, I need to try this BRZ. Okay, I can follow him here. It's not a big deal to follow him in this, I'm gonna say it straight, because the BRZ has really bad acceleration, especially out of slow turns. But at the same time, as we approach the final couple of turns, it's almost impossible to follow him. He has so much downforce, and this car, you don't even have to brake with this car, like almost not even braking. So I can just barely tap the brakes and this car just stays. While my Porsche 911, which I'm driving at this point, no, it doesn't work like that. It has a lot of understeer, and if you put the power down soon, it's just gonna understeer into the corner. But to be honest, I was pretty happy with P5, and looking at the gap, it was 12 seconds. Okay, 11 when they got out of the pits, but my lap times were kind of high 40s on new set of tires. So we're talking about high 40s, which is definitely not bad. But I was just looking at him, how he gets out of that turn, and you can really start to see the difference. And by the time we ended, it was 11.5 seconds to the lead, and my lap times were just in about 40s, I would say high 40s. And this is the tire wear. So he didn't change his tires, I did change my tires. And not even to mention the Lamborghini into this whole situation. It was not even worth to mention. He didn't change the tires, and comparing that to the BRZ and me, it's just a completely different world. But then it was time to try the BRZ, or as I called it, the BRZ experience. I did a couple of laps before I jumped into this race, and all of a sudden you can see it's Killian in first place. And also a couple of other guys that are extremely quick. So I really wanted to see what can I do with this car, and if I can get up the pace with this car. So just to clarify, before doing this, I haven't done a single race with this car in maybe like 6 to 7 months, maybe even more. So it's not my type of car. I don't usually drive it, and I only had, I think, 3 to 4 laps to get used to it. And this is just without preparation of, okay, I know the track, I know the braking points, I know the turning points, I know all of that, but I really don't play with this car that often, so it's not my go-to car. Definitely isn't. But all of a sudden I can follow the guys in front, and the gap is, well, not going up that significantly, at least. So 1.3, 1.4 seconds. Kelly's a little bit laggy, but that's not bad. So it's not the worst one that I've seen, and I can easily follow. So as long as I have the slipstream, as long as I have the stow, I'm kind of in the good situation in here. So braking at my usual braking point, you can see that I'm not even applying the brakes all the way up to 100%, kind of trying to preserve the tires a little bit. And the acceleration, of course, is slightly delayed because I don't know the full potential of these tires and I don't want to lose the car. So fourth gear, as I said before, I don't want to lose the car. There was a little bit of a mistake because this car is extremely twitchy in third and fourth gear, and you have to be extremely careful on how you apply the power. It's quite easy to lose this car. So using the tow, Killian is in the pits, and now it's 1.7 seconds to the lead. So I'm gonna call it clean air, and I just want to see what can I do out of this whole situation. But in the next lap, Killy got a penalty. And I was kind of, I'm gonna say, all alone. I think he even left me a little bit more space than he usually would, because he knew, okay, half a second penalty, dirty tires. he's probably not gonna make it out of the next couple of corners in, you know, the fastest possible way. So the gap extended to just about 2.5, well, it was around 2.3 seconds at this point. And I thought maybe I'm still losing a bit of time, but my lap time was a 40.6. My fastest lap with a Porsche 911 was a 40.5, but that was on a brand new set of tires with, well, a lot less fuel. But I'm doing a 40.5 in my fourth lap with this car. And just looking at the tires, it's just amazing to see what this car can do. So we're running 5 laps with almost no tire wear. And that's why this is kind of an OP car for daily race if you don't change your tires. I mean, it really is. So fast forward, it's time to pit, and you can see my lap times. They are all in 40s. I haven't done a single lap in 41. While with the Porsche 911, I had to change the tires, lose 3 or maybe even 4 seconds on tire change in the pits to get something like this in the second stint. Not to even mention the first stint where my tires were kind of dropping and I couldn't even get to 40.5. So it was a 40.3, my fastest lap time, and all of the other laps were just in about 40.7, 40.6 and so on. And I think this pretty much shows the difference in between these cars and why the BRZ is an OP car and why I think everyone should use this car. Definitely try this one. In the end, please let me know if you enjoyed in this video, and if you did, you can of course click that like button, or you might even subscribe to the channel. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, bye.